Good day and good evening, and welcome back to Roulette Live with me, Caetsu Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. So, tonight, as usual, about 3 hours of mental roulette. Let's see what we get. I have the wheel of jobs ready and everything. But, with that said, hey Taldemar, hey Kaj, hey Rost, hey Bulky, hey Volter, hey Zav, hey Cobalt Snacks, hey Jin Monica, hey Retro Gaming, hey Crab Galaxy, hey Lana, hey Fila, hey Kershanta, hey Alice, hey Ilya, hey Mistel, hey Ulna, hey Nicholas, hey Dan, and hey Ansa, and hey Varian. Hope you're all doing very well. And awesome with the... we have a 45 and a 90 and a 160 stream streak. Crazy. I'll say Namara and Goldo, hope you're doing well. Let's see what we get. Opening with the samurai. And a Dark Knight. And a Scholar. And as usual, we will start with the Samurai, the DPS, and then rely on the others when the queue says no. Right, I will queue when it says 50. If I can make that. Hey Ardo, hope you're doing well. We have the Fan Fest this weekend? Absolutely. I don't travel much. Oh boy, what a start. Yeah, YouTube is just weird sometimes, Mr. At least Samurai isn't the most boring job to be in a duty like this. Hey, Yamada. And Naomi. We have 2 Praetoriums going at once. Oh boy. The value of having Taldemar at the ready wasted on a Praetorium of all things. Man. Hey Ham, hope you're doing well. Enough is enough. Get off my stage. That's savage specific honeybee, isn't it? Yeah. Wah, wah. So if Alphina was a Pokemon trainer, what Pokemon would be on his team? I have a feeling that he would use a lot of psychic types. And he would probably have an Eevee, yeah. Would he then have, like, which Eevee would he, like, which evolution would it be? Espeon and Umbreon. Oh, I was thinking that Alisaie would have the other one. I guess that could work too. Thinking of his 2 Kabis. But I was actually thinking that he would probably have something like Delphox as his starter. Exactly, because that's also kind of Kabi-like. Would he have, say, an Ordino to reference to being a healer bit? Maybe? Oh, whoops. Face plant straight into the wall. Mistel had been thinking a Glaceon. I feel like there we're trying a little bit too hard to mimic a classic Kabi. There's also the part that Alphino uses. And he uses, as far as I recall, as the story progresses, he uses like white and black-ish, like gray Kabis, like an Onyx one, I believe. And they should have the sword Pokemon. Major Slash? Exactly, Ham. Gardevoir, maybe. I feel like focusing more on the style of Pokemon that they would use rather than going, well, he's a healer, so he would use healing moves. But the angle of going, he would probably have a lot of psychic types. Which I feel makes sense due to like the way like he's quite a thinker. And yeah, I mean, I could totally see Alphino with a Gardevoir, and then let's say possibly with a Gallade. Quite a twist, right? Hey, Deadman and Nox. She should use a Surf Edge. That could also work. Two very confused small guys. Nee, Polderjoch. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, Agent Monica, but from what I could tell, it also bugged out a bit on my end. Like, it took a while to realize that that's what you did. Hey, Bronto! Nox says if you want to lean into something else, he could also use a Pokemon that's weak to water. I mean, their Delphox would work. Why did I do that? Yeah, sure. Let's waste make your Shisui stack on Fuga. Nice. Big damage. Mega Delphox is good at gathering firewood. And if I understood correctly, it's surfing on some, isn't it? It must have gathered that somehow. True? Zartos wonder if Astrologian would get Earthly Star in at 50 in 8.0. I wonder if it would get Earthly Star. If they would change how Earthly Star works. One of those actions that are so weird that I could totally see them go, nah, we're not keeping that. An all firewood gathering team. You also have a timber. Exodi. I feel like I've actually seen like FF character Pokemon team Scrap Galaxy where I've specifically seen Alice and Alphino with Meowsticks. Hey, make some time! Oh boy, more cutscene! Mr. says, the problem with me and Pokemon team building is that I need to have the list of every Pokemon ever in front of me or I can't think straight. I mean, yeah, to be fair, what's gonna happen when you think about it is you're probably gonna think about Pokemon that you like or dislike. Like, hilariously, there's probably a higher probability that you remember Pokemon that you both like very much and dislike very much. Much better than all the, like, Pokemon in the middle. And there's also definitely going to be a lot of Pokemon that are just like not particularly defining in any way, where the main reason you would give a character that Pokemon is because you have like some affinity for it, like, well, I really like it and I think it's a good fit. Because there's so many Pokemon that the ones that are, you know, mid just disappear. Nox says, in my objective opinion, all Scion should use Infernape because I really like it. I mean, considering what Infernape does, you send it in, it close combats something, and then we see who survives. Or it flare blitzes something, and then we see who survives. I feel like Infernape is a very good stand-in for the monkey brain that the Scions tends to just throw at problems. So maybe that is a perfect fit. Why do all the Scions have Infernape in your lineup here? What, do you have a particular affinity for Infernape? No, but it's a very good match. It's a very good fit for the Warrior of Light. Hey, Violet. You know, funny story on that, Mister. Back in my Pokemon Sapphire version many years ago, I had a Clam Pearl that was like level 60 something. Because my approach to filling out the Pokédex was I would just, you know, grab a Pokemon and then level it. Surely it'll evolve eventually, right? I also had like a level 50-something Feebas that I acquired from a friend trading it to me. I don't recall the exact specifics. And then one day, the friend group discovered Cerebi.net. And suddenly a lot of things suddenly fell into place. Oh, it's a trade evolution. I didn't actually do anything with that. It's just the Clamperl was just, well, I guess it's just a really high level Clamperl now. Screw that, I don't care. But I did actually get a Milotic. And I actually had an EV trained Milotic in my Diamond version, which was a child of that original Feebas, because I could not be... you could not pay me to go out and deal with the garbage that is catching a Feebas. Yeah, I had EV trained Pokemon in Generation 4. I was playing on Wi-Fi against strangers on the internet. I even recorded some of it. One of my favorite gimmicks I had, I changed their name because it was a little bit too much on the nose. It kind of gave away the trick. Is that I had 2 Salamences that were EV trained, but one of them was a mixed attacker with special attacks and a physical attack. And it specifically had Hydro Pump and Flamethrower and Dragon Pulse and Brick Break. While the other one was like a more classic Salamence with Dragon Dance and Earthquake and Stone Edge and Dragon Claw, as you usually did it back then. And they had the exact same name, so when I throw one out in a match, if you had played against me before, you wouldn't be sure which one you were up against. You couldn't just predict, well, he has a physical Salamence, so I'll just switch based on that. AVV, hope you're doing well. Yeah, there's almost like this weird tradition that has come that when we land in Praetorium and Castrum Meridianum, we talk about Pokemon. But so I would use one of those Salamences. I would also had other tricks that usually if I brought Gyarados, and I usually did, I also brought an Electivire. Just in case you wanted to use an electric move. Oh, Electivire, why are you not viable? I mean, he's pretty alright when he gets a motor drive boost. Hey, Zero Shogun Jet. Hope you're doing well. Pashanzo says Estinian would have dragon types, no? Probably, yeah. And an Infernape. And for those that missed it, the joke is that the Infernape is the Warrior of Light. It would be weird for Estinian to have dragon types at first. He would probably have like... You know, see, the funny thing is that... I guess he would have ice types. And then later in his journey, he would switch to using dragon types. He could also use fairy types, but I feel like that's weirder. That's really weird. But ice is also effective against dragons. And the whole thing with dragoons are that they're really good at killing dragons. They don't take a hit very well. And you know what ice types do? They are very effective against dragons, but they don't take a hit very well. Hey, Seraph, hope you're doing well. You'd also be using a Pokemon that only gains Dragon and later evolution. That's also true. Hey, Mary Mary. I guess that would make Baxcalibur his signature Pokemon. I guess that could be an interesting, carry-over between the teams. Thank you, Retro. Enox says, a really funny thing about the Master Duel format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Apparently, because of how the progression system used to work, one of the most popular strategies was a self-OTK deck, because it gave you points faster. What? What? You got points for losing? Also, thank you for the restart, procrastinauts. Beep boop. Beep boop. Master Duel is an online deck. Sure. Ilana says, I'm still unsure that Dragoons are effective against dragons. From the moment we were there, they seem to need a lot of help. Well, the idea is there. Oh, the battle pass. Okay, so the points as in, like, progressing the battle pass quickly. Okay, I thought it was, like, you know, ranked ladder points. So it's like, why would losing help with that? But that is pretty funny. And very cursed. Could you imagine that? Like just two players just grinding the battle pass, getting up in a 1v1, and they're both just trying... Well, I guess it's all 1v1, but you know what I mean. They gotta get up in a match, and they both are like fighting to get rid of themselves the fastest. Exodi says the Stadion was using the Eye of Nidhogg from the start, so Dragon types make sense at any point. He just gets to be grumpy about it. Oh yeah, and Dino and Zvelos could also work really well, that's true. Oh, nice, Bronto. I think. And the self-kill strategies were especially prevalent in events. You get like 50 points for losing and 100 for winning towards the event rewards. They changed that so that losing gives you like 5 or 10 or something like that now. So it's not worth the time anymore. Say Marathon. That is really funny. It does remind me of the early days of Crystalline Conflict. Where in Season 1, there were people that... And I'm not making like you have heard me mention the kind of weird, ridiculous statements I've heard in the past. Some players saw the battle pass, quote unquote, for PvP, and determined that because they have paid for the game and they pay a subscription, they have a right to those rewards. And so, because they don't want to PvP and they don't like PvP, they're going to do it in the easiest way possible for them, which is to just queue into Crystalline Conflict and do nothing. Which of course means that you lose really fast. Don't do that, by the way. You can get reported and you can get banned. Don't do it. Even if you couldn't get punished for it, just don't do that. Just like with any other thing in an MMO, you paid for access to the game. The rewards are for you actually being deserving of it for participation. Also, thank you so much for the Gigantify, Lana. The big yap. It's yapping time. My song says, I bet Gaius would be a stall player.
Your gods are no different from those of the beasts. Icons, everyone. Except for this. And you will see.
And he would specifically be a stall player with no plan other than hoping that you give up.
Nor is this unknown to your masters, which prompts the question, why do they cling to these false deities? What drives even men of learning? Even the great Louis Schwartz.
He also has different he's like one of those like opponents like the Frontier Brains, where they have different teams that they might use. One of his teams is, I don't actually feel like fighting today. I'll just sit here and yap, which means that he will just stall with a strategy that does, like, there's no win con. It's just really hard to get rid of him.
Dust of battle settles. It is ever the strong who dictate the fate of the weak. Knowing this, but a single path is open to the infinite ruler. That of false worship. A path which leads to innovation and death.
So he has a Wobbuffet. No, that wouldn't be very effective. But he does have a Toxapex.
Creeping mendacity, that one truth will prove its salvation.
Hey, Yabix. And Wolf. And Haunted Mask. I will add that the quote-unquote Battle Pass of Crystalline Conflict in Final Fantasy XIV is in quotes. You don't pay for anything. It's just like a seasonal thing with rewards on it. You get the rewards for playing PvP. And losing is a viable strategy for, like, working it. In fact, losing a Crystalline Conflict match gives you, like, 700 XP on the track, while winning gives you 900. So that's the reason why some people thought, hey, I could just deliberately lose. Hey, folks. Hope you're doing well. But it is true that Battle Pass is definitely, like, they have gained prominence because people buy into it, right? It is it's a very effective tool at doing what it's meant to do. What is your favorite Pokemon game then, Kai? I really like the Rescue Team games. But I also recognize that they're incredibly weirdly balanced. I have the what's it called, the Rescue Team for Switch, and I have a very, very overfed Does Noir and Heracross and Latias team. Hey Nixie, hope you're doing well. Oh, you're already done, man. Yes, DX. What about mainline games? I stopped buying mainline games after Generation 4. I just keep up with it systematically, you could say. Caetsu. The best gen ever? If you're saying Gen 5 is that one is a pretty debated topic. When did you get into Pokemon, Zero Sugar? Quick, a Discord link. Watch out! Hey, Sally. Yeah, I know about that, Sally. Fun. You may be wondering why my lineup in Mystery Dungeon DX is a Dus Noir, a Heracross, who Mega Evolves. I believe it gets Skill Link, or something to that effect, and a Latias. Thank you for the Prime, Victors. And hey, Zip Zap. Like, I remember spending so much time on a day, like, fighting through the whole Kyogre cave, and then finally you get to the boss. Ah, here comes the good bit. Time for a battle. All right, Heracross, Mega Evolve, and then just instantly killed it. Just, oh. Oh, okay. Right. Cool. I mean, a major reason for the 3 I chose was that I just liked those. I would have used a Frostlass instead of Dus Noir, but for some reason, Frostlass cannot go through walls. Thank you for the fish. For some reason. Yeah. Viper! Yeah, the reason why I asked when you started is that I have seen some... that it isn't uncommon that people that get into Pokemon initially on a later like on a newer generation will call that the best one. Where when it really comes to it, it's because it's biased because it's their first one. It's not always true. I don't think Gen 1 games are the best. They are incredibly janky and buggy. I just feel like I had already experienced the story experience of a Pokemon game in Gen 4, and that was also when they did the physical special split probably, which was good enough for me. I'll queue when it says 36. Did we just get a hype train? We did just get a hype train, I think. We did. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you for the resub, Beans. Beans! Thank you for the 5 gifted subs, Retro Gaming. That's crazy. And thank you for the sub, Amare. Oh, Amara. Right. Did you know you can find the legendary like button under the the video? You know, Aradol, that is a very, very fitting reference. Thank you for the gifted sub, Crab Galaxy. Wow, it's already on a level 3. Thank you for the bits, Ilana. And the gifted sub, Rust. Thank you, guys. But yeah, from my side of things, I'm not super fixed on a specific generation being the best, but usually when people say, oh, you missed the best generation, I'm like, I don't feel like I missed out on that much. Hey, Lucas, hope you're doing well. And hey, friendo. And Flims. And yeah, ultimately the reason why I stopped buying the games was just because the journey kind of stopped being interesting for me, I felt. Like, I have talked about this before. When I play through a Pokemon game, a Pokemon will appear in front of me and I'll go, what moves does it learn? Does it have a good, interesting ability? No? I don't know if I want to catch it, actually. Which means that you go through a lot of the game going, well, that sucks. Well, that sucks. Oh, that one would be good, except the TM that you need for it to be awesome is, like, after batch 8. So I think it was like a case of, like, once I realized, I kind of lost interest in that whole aspect. But that doesn't mean that the games are bad as a result. It's just, I prefer to play my games differently. I'm quite alright, Lucas. Thank you so much. Well, let's see here. Let's switch to Dark Knight. Never mind. Apparently the game just wanted to push me to the edge. We're going into MSQ Roulette again. I can take it. Just tell me. Give it to me straight, game. You can also give it... Just give it to me. It doesn't have to be straight. Just come on down. I guess we kind of are off. Oh boy. What was the thing you were saying about Chip and Dale, Zaf? I've also got Anti-Tower. Sounds better than this. Oh, right. It's called Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers? Chip and Dale. We did it! How cute, and it says 42. Thanks so much for the hype trade, everybody. It's the classic with the guild tests. And there isn't really much to talk about with them either. Flicking sticks and taking names just does nothing. The intro was fire, not quite as good as Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck! Let's get dangerous. So what did we learn from that guild test? How can that help us in the future? I imagine that the lesson there might be associated with the bombs. And what's pretty funny is that if I recall correctly... It's kind of toxic pulling ahead of the new gladiator like that. I'm sorry. It's NG. Hope you're doing well. Those bombs use, I believe, the like a Realm Reborn era circle AoE indicator, which was like more scarce. But don't worry about that, Tenji. Focus on yourself first, of course. It says, is Mental Roulette unlimited? What do you mean by unlimited? How many per day? I mean, there's a daily reward, but the achievement is not associated with the daily reward. And the daily reward is so pathetically bad that you don't do Mental Roulette for the daily reward. Absolutely not. But nothing stops you from queuing on a roulette when you have already done the daily. Exactly. Wow. Guild has jail. Yeah. Well, I guess that means we get a little bit of a boost on duty clears. If that's what's needed, I guess we'll do it. Our Q and it says 58. Top 10 guild has to sleep through. Flems is predicting a Ramu extreme. But yeah, most of the guild tests don't really teach much. Either they teach you a lesson that is outdated, they teach you a lesson that is poorly done because the game itself has moved, or the lesson is like pointless. Like enemy parties, I think, is kind of like about pulling, but it's presented in a format that dungeons don't work in. Under the Armor has this whole thing with dealing with ads, which makes sense in the context of the DPS Hall of the Novice, where there is this lesson about helping the tank pick up mobs that spawn in the middle of a fight. Except, aside from Sastasha and Brayflock's Longstop, there's not a lot of dungeons, even in the early days, that use this concept of an ad wave spawning like a bit ways away that needs to be picked up. And when it happens, the tank is usually the best equipped to do it. Something like All's Well That Ends in the Wells is kind of like falls flat too, because its lesson, if you actually read it, it's a healing lesson. It's about removable debuffs. It explains that you can use a Shuna and things like that. But the tutorial doesn't mention the blue line that indicates that something is removable, because the guild test predates that feature. And every single debuff in that duty is removable, so they're not teaching you that some debuffs cannot be removed, which I think is actually a more important lesson. Yeah, exactly that, man. Something like that too. It's about managing ad waves. But the boss is so easy, and supposedly always were so easy. That it doesn't matter. And yes, as Crab Galaxy says, Abix, guild tests are supposed to teach you like basic things in the game. The problem is that they're teaching you things that either didn't actually apply, or have been changed, or it's just really bad at teaching it. But some of the things that the guild tests are teaching are things that you can see in like a little bit of in some of the early dungeons, that they wanted it to be like that. Like, for instance, and I've mentioned this before, in Sastasha, when you get to the first boss, you have to click a specific coral. Like, there's different colored corals. If you click a wrong one, an ad wave spawns. And the corals lock until you have killed that ad wave. And then the remaining corals remain. And you can do this until you hit the correct coral. Usually people get it in the second or third try. But the way you're supposed to do it is that there's a piece of paper. Like, if you just run straight forward at the start of the dungeon, instead of turning right, there is a piece of paper on the ground that tells you which coral is the correct one. That's true, you also get poisoned. Now we try Dark Knight. Dances before that, it was just trial and error, which buffs are removable. Basically. Zabs' enemy parties talk about using a ranged attack, but as a tank, I didn't have a ranged attack. That's true! You don't have a ranged attack at level 10. Well, someone smelled a Ramu Extreme. I'm going to guess, possibly, that, okay, maybe not. I'm going to hope that they also know what to do. We have community in both tank, heal, and DPS slots. And we have quite a lot of mentors as well. The other tank is making me very nervous. How they're moving so close to me. They just grabbed orbs, but didn't consider they actually need to taunt. Now they have one orb too many. Two orbs too many. Three orbs too many. People just hanging out near me as if I'm not a danger zone. Well, the other tank is useless. Oh my god! Shirk them. I could do that, but that doesn't exactly solve the problem. The reason they're useless is because they're not actually they're specifically making sure their debuff lasts forever. Like, they're perfectly metering it out. Well, now we're in danger. Bruh. Good thing we had Crusher on the healing. And I believe Ilana was helping with the orb management and such. And who really likes to tank buster point 2 seconds after the buffs drop, huh? Yeah, you'd almost think that he's designed to do it or something. And I'm pretty sure he's not. It's just weirdly coincidental. That's awesome, Tenji. Yeah, the other tank was basically, the only thing they provided was that they were conveniently good enough at generating enmity that I could easily, like, give them aggro with Shirk. But they somehow didn't generate enough to actually take over when I turned off my stance. Very, very annoying. And well done, Ilana. And Crusher. Hey, Vespi. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, I'll be right back. Good luck, Zaf. In the meantime, sanity restored. Alright, I'm back. But yeah, that run was definitely a remember everybody, Ramu Extreme only requires 3 players. As we discovered in the Extreme Countdown a while back. Hey, Flower Buns! Humanity restored, but Manatee lost. Oof. We were doing Viper, yes. Hey, Jace, hope you're doing well. Oop. What now, Volter? And that's probably right, Jace. It's easy to mix those up. Right, I will queue when it says 03. Dun 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 dun. You know, Jace, you missed a weird Ramu Extreme. Really demonstrated how much one tank that knows what they're doing can control the fight, even when the other tank has no idea what they're doing. And how impactful one DPS and one healer who knows what they're doing can help. Nice no Shiro! It was I was Dark Knight, and the other Dark Knight didn't know what they were doing, so I was, like, almost solo tanking it. Meanwhile, Crusher and Ilana was, like, carrying the whole backline on their backs. Well, that's not entirely true. I believe there were 2 other mentors in the backline who were probably doing their part. Have a good evening, Tenji! By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the stream... Ooh. Remember that liking over on the YouTube side of things also helps and is free. So thank you so much in advance. Well, I think we are going with Scholar then. And of course, also a follow and all that if you enjoy it, so you can catch streams in the future also helps. There it is. Boop, and boop, and yeah, of course. Oh boy. Bloodbond says, watching people streaming Ramu Extreme for mental roulettes always looks like herding cats to me. It's not far off. I probably will, Wolf. I don't know if I'll make guides for both Evolved and, what's it called? Can't remember it. Old school. Reborn. That's something that I'm figuring out when I see it. But I will make guides for all jobs again. You say that's a lot of that's a lot of jobs. Correct. It was in Dawntrail too. It would be so much work to do both modes. It would, if there's enough. If there's enough value in it, I just might. But if I determine, as I've said before, if I determine looking over the jobs that, say, Reborn mode is so inferior to Evolved mode in the leveling experience that the best advice I could possibly give in a Reborn mode guide is, okay, so here's the leveling guide for Reborn mode. Step 1, switch to Evolved mode, you dingus. Then I'm not gonna make a guide for, like, level by level on Reborn mode. I might make, like, a max level guide or something and just leave it at that. Because I feel like it has to actually be useful. Otherwise, what's the point? Exactly, Jace. If it's, like, relatively minor stuff, it might also just be, like, a part of the one guide. But I will make job guides. Gonna be... Wolf, I like how you have looked into Evercold briefly to know that there will be more jobs and all that, but you don't know that there's a whole new, like, style of rotate. I actually have videos on the channel about it. I do find that a little funny. Our song says, I can't imagine Reborn jobs changing much of it all going into Evercold. We know for a fact that 2-minute burst cooldowns are going away, as in the bots, the raid bots, which means that some jobs are probably going to feel different, and some jobs will be different enough that it's like, who knows, maybe the whole thing about, oh, make sure you're using your cooldowns in this, like, specific way, so you have a 2-minute burst that, like, culminates and things, that stops being relevant. Thank you, Erdl. But yeah, basically with Evercold, they're making the new evolved mode that sort of overhauls every job in a way. I wonder if for reborn mode they'll just make raid buffs into... You know, that would be a way they could do it, although it would be pretty... Guys. How much damage boost does technical finish and devilment have to give the dancer for it to make sense that it's single target now? Could you imagine? Technical finish does like damage and also gives you like a 50% damage boost for the duration. Jay says 1500 potency. Are you aware that technical finish already does like I think 1300 potency? It would actually be a relatively small buff. I'll say awards. Hope you're doing well. The other question is, what if there is not a lot in Evolved? Dragoon is only the 3 different positionals, and then just smash the one button, smash the other button until your positionals charges are back. Yeah, but admittedly, a lot of Reborn mode Dragoon is also just smash a button. It's just that a lot of it is veiled in, oh, but you smash a different button that roughly does the same thing. So maybe it feels more engaging. Say, Lillian, thank you so much for the prime. Like, I'm just saying, a large part of Dragoon's rotation is pressing through a 10-button sequence that involves 7 buttons. But ultimately, they accomplish the same thing. Maybe not engagement-wise, but practically the same as just pressing 1. Retro Gaming says, I hope every add-on that they remove positionals. Well, they are expanding positionals on Dragoon, considering that they're adding distinctly different left and right positionals. But so far, the thing is, it's very easy to look at what's being presented and going, well, that looks dumb, and then throwing it aside when you haven't tried it. Which is why I'm being a little bit extra critical of what we already have. Like, it's very easy to look at the thing and go, well, if we like look at it on a piece of paper, what the Evolved Mode Dragoon has is really lame. But a lot of what the Evolved Mode Dragoon has isn't that much different from what the current Dragoon has, in my opinion. Like, instead of having, you know, a huge amount of OGCDs that they, like, splatter through their burst, they have, like, a faster 1, 2, 3, 4 combo as, like, a big build-up thing that comes from the Stardiver. Things like that. And that might feel more engaging. It also might not. It's also possible that the slightly more chill and simple rotation means that a much bigger part of combat plays into actually playing around boss mechanics and things like that. So that whole thing with Sky High giving like damage reduction and things like that, I'm just gonna say it would not surprise me if the 90% damage reduction they were testing at the time where they revealed it doesn't survive, but it might have 50% or something, and depending, that might be enough that you will use it in different ways to like get uptime or something. Hey Shari, hope you're doing well. You can start Final Fantasy, then looking at all the skills in the toolbar, no idea what is going on. You will gradually reach this point. You can see that there's a lot of buttons in this dungeon that is a level 50 dungeon that I'm in. A lot of buttons that are grayed out or darkened because I can't use them. Like, it takes a while to get this many buttons, and some jobs have less buttons. So if that's overwhelming, don't worry. It comes with time. Say butterfly! 90% mitigation sounds like you can take tank busters with it, right? That's actually the thing that has, like that I, for instance, been talking about, that if Dragoon gets to keep that, there will be savage boss strats that abuse that. 100%. It will, of course, not be a tank Dragoon, because it only gets it briefly. But you might be able to, like, oh, there's a stack marker that appeared on the Dragoon. Wow, that's weirdly convenient. Hey, Vivi Caligo. Hope you're doing well. But essentially, I feel like a lot of what Final Fantasy XIV focuses on with rotations right now, I get that it's cool to have a lot of different attacks. I also just feel like the sheer amount of attacks kind of draw value away, and high APM or high casts per minute or whatever you want to focus on doesn't necessarily make things more fun. And with less buttons, the things that are there will be more significant. Like, for instance, I mentioned technically what we've seen of Dragoon, right? Evolved Mode Dragoon. The way that it works, for those that haven't seen it, I'll explain it right now. You can hold up to 3 thingies. You generate 1 thingy every 10 seconds. The thingies are spent on the left positional move and the right positional move. You can only use 1 of each, because they produce a sticker. And once you have, and each of them also give you an OGC. One gives Geiskergul, the other one gives an Astrond. Then once you have both stickers, you can use Chaotic Spring or something. Like, it uses that animation. And when you use that, you get Whirlwind Thrust, which you can hold 2 of. So like there's like this build up. But Whirlwind Thrust is ranged and a GCD now, and replaces Piercing Talon when you have it. So it's like a super ranged attack, right? So used for when you're pushed out of melee range, a little bit like Viper does. Then, remember, you get up to 3 of them and you charge 1 every 10 seconds. So you have like a lot of flexibility in when you want to use them. Then you can hold 3 stickers that, basically, rather not stickers, you can hold up to 3 charges of jump, which is still, you know, an OGCD attack as far as I recall. And it's a gap closer now, if I recall correctly. Actually, I don't think it's a gap closer, I can't remember. I can't remember if it's a gap closer or just a range attack. But point is, when you use it, you gain a sticker. Just using like silly analogies, sticker. And it gives you a buff that makes your next positional auto succeed. You know, true north, but for 1 GCD. So essentially, because you get 1 jump every 20 seconds and you get 1 positional thingy every 10 seconds, it means that half of your positionals can be skipped if you actually play smartly. And once you have 3 jump stickers, you can use Stardiver to go into a fast combo, which is like 1.5 second GCD stuff. And finishing that combo gives you a Sky High sticker, which you can only hold 1 of, by the way. And by the way, again, you need 3 jump stickers to use the big combo. But that means that technically you could hold that Sky High for when you need it, or until like just before you're gonna do another Stardiver wombo combo that builds a new one. So you can essentially always hold 1 in the pocket if you want to. And similarly, the Star Diver can be held until you're gonna jump again. And you can hold 2 Whirlwind Thrusts. So like, and by extension, you can hold a Chaotic Spring ready to give you another Whirlwind Thrust and things like that. So like, it has a huge amount of flexibility suddenly, which means that fights don't have to be as rigid and jobs don't need to be as rigid. Hey, Masonite! And NJ3 Fate. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Provide. Hope you're doing well. Can't wait to see your reaction to the FanFest content. It might be a little different because I'll, of course, see it live. Hey, Arcane. Arcane says, I hope not every mailer uses the same, like, gap close for a True North design. I agree. That again, this is the problem with us trying to, like, predict what the jobs are going to be like, is that we have so few jobs right now that revealed for Evercold, that if we try to predict it, we're just gonna say, we're just gonna make Dragoon or Bard again, or Paladin again, because that's what we have to work with, right? Hey, Puyano, hope you're doing well. Wait for the hardest melee bit to drop. Yeah, we still have a hardest mage to work through. And I had to wait a little longer with starting on the melee one because it was 15 polls. That's, let's see, Real Names is what healer do you prefer to play in Dawntrail? I prefer to play Sage a lot of the time, but I'm not too picky. That says, I think my biggest issue at the moment is that all the kits in 14 are designed to line up nicely, which could be symptoms of the 2-minute meta, but I don't think it is, and it is what makes me the most worried about Evercold. That's fair. I'm assuming part of it comes from, imagine if they rework everything and it turns out that the reason why everything just lines up nicely is because the designers just can't help themselves. They have to make everything neat and nice. So it's just gonna be the same again, but on a different, like, clockwork. Giano says, every time you mentioned perceived difficulty, I just knew Monk was always going to be ranked high, even though one of its only issues is no ranged attacks. The thing that really makes Monk is things that are very similar to Black Mage, actually. A lot of front and center unintuitiveness, where the moment you understand it, you're like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. But when you don't, like at level 50, which combo is best to use Perfect Balance on? Trick question. Perfect Balance is a damage loss on single target at level 50. How the heck do you find that out without bringing out like a spreadsheet? And understanding how stats scale and things like that. And then when you hit a point where it's not a damage loss, it's like how like it could be any combo that's the best one to do, but we just know that it's boot kick, right? We just know that. And we just accept that because we know that. But if you're a new player, figuring that out is not that clear. Like back in the day, it was clear because the step 2 combo had like a damage buff you were managing, and the step 3 combo had a dot you were managing, and they were both like, the non-managing button was just like a filler. But the step 1 built something and spent it immediately. It made perfect sense for that one to be the one you spammed. Now, not so much. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff with Monk, so I understand why it would rank high. Still a little bit surprising. I'll say, hey, Nanwa, hope you're doing well. Boop. Mage. But these kinds of things, I'd love to see a PvP ranking of jobs too. That will not happen. Not from me. I could rank them myself, but let's just say that the amount of players that are actually invested in PvP are too few to get actually useful data on a poll. Alcuna says 11. Nomi says just to ask Ham to rank them for you. I feel like Ham is also a very biased source. I would say I would both say not fully agree with Selly, but also kind of agree with Selly. I feel like Monk has a similar thing as Black Mage in that people exaggerate it, in that people say that Black Mage's rotation is completely changed every 10 levels. It's not every 10 levels, but there is something every 10 levels or so. Similarly, people say that Monk have been fully overhauled basically every single expansion. From A Realm Reborn to Heavensward, as far as I know, not that much changed. From Heavensward to Stormblood, Touch of Death, and the whole gimmick of them like being like focused on maintaining Greased Lightning while doing other stuff had been fully removed and focused in on just maintain Greased Lightning. From Stormblood to Shadowbringers, what did they change there? Also, wow, M10. And from Shadowbringers to Endwalker, I know that they technically made that change late Shadowbringers, but if you started on Monk in Shadowbringers, left the game and came back, then you would come back to Monk no longer having to maintain Greased Lightning, and then having this Masterful Blitz thing. And in Dawntrail, you no longer have your buffs and debuffs to manage. So like, while they haven't like actually like massively changed Monk, it still has the whole like skeleton of doing 1, 2, 3 combos and that. It has been changed quite drastically almost every single expansion. How often were Astrologian cards reworked? Depending on how much counts, then like if we're willing to take a relatively small amount of changes, then technically I believe there has never been an expansion where the cards haven't been changed since the last one.
Hey, save some fun for me.
Deep Blue's lost his cool.
It just depends on how much you count. Like, does Astrologian's cards being overhauled count if the thing that they changed was that one of the cards were overhauled? Does that count as a card overhauling? Or does it have to be everything for it to count? Because technically from Heavensward to Stormblood, the spear was changed from cooldown reduction, yes, I'm not kidding, to crit.
Bet you've never seen anything this gnarly.
And they dance out of the way unharmed. Unbelievable!
You're
You're going down! What a drag. Let's do this together, bro.
Both brothers have entered the ring. Oh, that's grounds for disqualification.
They don't fight alone either, so it's only fair.
Stand here. No! Not my death rattle! Come on, man!
It seems the referee is allowing it.
Deadman says, the spear's crit, I thought it was just damage increase. Deadman, did you not hear the part of that statement where it said the cards have been changed every single expansion? Uh-oh.
Hey, check out this smooth teamwork.
In Shadowbringers, they made all of the cards just be damage.
Truly, they are deadly.
And they stuck with that in Endwalker, but then they changed the payoff. By adding Astrodyne instead of having it build Divination's damage. And then Astrodyne wasn't good enough, so they changed... They actually removed the whole thing with cards being RNG at all. It wasn't even crit too good. The reason why they normalized them all to just be damage buffs was that the defensive cards were too bad.
I've been saving this trick just for you.
Oh, brace yourselves, folks. The extremes are holding nothing back.
Which is really funny, because I just want to reiterate real quick for those that didn't experience it at the time. Astrologian had the capacity to give a tank 20% damage reduction for 30 seconds. And some players would be mad if they got that. Because it would be worse than getting a damage boost for a DPS. So here I am. Exactly, here I am. That's basically the problem, is that because the cards were like split between defensive and offensive values, the thing is, a damage buff that you can't rely on, like, if you don't get it, then you're just gonna do less damage. A defensive button you can't rely on means that if you don't have it and you need to have it, it means you die. So you're never gonna plan around that, right? Which kind of makes the defensive options that Astrologian could provide through their cards kinda whatever most of the time when it came to strategy. Because you couldn't rely on them, so you wouldn't plan around them. So if hypothetically, if there was a card that straight up said, like if the bowl said target is invulnerable for 10 seconds as a card, it would be nigh useless, because who do you give that to? Do you just use it on the tank for the next tank buster if Oh wow, the music actually dropped. And I didn't win it. Yeah, apparently YouTube couldn't take those truth bombs I was dropping. Hey Shiku, hope you're doing well. I have a feeling that Shield stands for Astrologian is never coming back, because it was essentially a band-aid fix for a problem that they had kind of like backed themselves into in a way. I'll say, Matsuri, hope you're doing well. Exactly, Shikun. The thing is, I imagine the day they add another healer, they will either have determined that they have a third category, they will have made it varied enough that it doesn't matter. Having AoE balance cards plus a choice of switching was cool. Well, I agree with you, except I will add that you couldn't switch stands mid-fight. So it was a choice at the start, and usually the choice was made for you. I say, Yevi. And also add 2 healers on the same expansion. That's true, they could add 2 healers in an expansion. However, I find that unbelievable. If they do that, if they actually do that, Evie, you will get the points for predicting that. Hey Lex, hope you're doing well. I will queue when it says 51. But I would also add that it's just like I think it's more likely that they will add a 5th healer and just give it the ability to switch modes rather than go, well, I mean, that you had that thing with Astrologian, because if they go back to that, then you know how that's going to go down. It's some people will go down with the, yes, finally they recognize the truth that they should give us our shield stands again. Finally. And then, like, the next time a healer comes out, they take it away again. And then people mad again. And other players will be like, well, there's no point getting invested in the shield stands because we know the moment that a 6th healer joins the fray, we lose it again. What's the point, right? I'll say Shackman and Cruises. Hope you're doing well. And Reaper Seeker. How about this, adding 3 healers? And Omi says, why give Astrologian shield stance back when we could just give all healers a shield and pure healer stance? You know? Maybe you're onto something, Nomi. Maybe a couple expansions down the line, when we have, as we have predicted, Reborn mode probably gets phased out. They can, reuse this system of having 2 modes to just give all of the healers a pure healing mode and a barrier healing mode. And then they can also give every tank a main tank mode and an off-tank mode. and then we can also, while we're at it, give every DPS a melee DPS mode and a ranged DPS mode, so that you just never have to worry. Anything works. So thank you for the Prime Cruises. Just Warrior. No, that is not what eating the fairy does, Lex. Nay, Free Norman. Hope you do well. Why not also just give a caster stance and a martial stance too? Yeah. Well, my thought was if you only have 2 modes to pick from, then walking backwards into giving jobs all job specializations. Yeah, exactly. melee black mage. My magic is my fists. Melee black mage just rips off their sleeves to reveal these guns. I cast fist. Gunk. Meanwhile, monk picks up a staff. For the ranged option. That one old man in Freerun that threw hands when they ran out of money. I mean, it is smart, right? Imagine if he just gave up. Please put it up. We did it, we did it, Patrick. We fixed the job homogenization problem. What did we do, SpongeBob? We made all jobs into the same job. Wow. That is an interesting contrast. Butterfly says, I wonder if Evolved Mode will change mage auto attacks. My prediction on that is that either they... All I'm saying is I don't remember seeing any auto attacks in the preview. Now, that being said, I do want to emphasize that there is absolutely the possibility that the reason for that is that they just don't have it turned on in this like test build or whatever. So it's possible that that's like a red herring. But it is possible that they're doing away with auto attacks. Fleet here! Mwah! Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. His Metricon says auto attacks are such a strange relic in a game with constant GCDs. You know, it is funny because WoW kind of wrestles with this as well. Some years ago, while classes basically had like completely filled rotations in WoW, some melee specializations, or just physical specializations, still did like over 50% of their damage was just auto attacks, which meant that in a weird way, the whole point of their rotation was just to maintain effects that made their auto attacks better. But they eventually fixed that by making auto attacks a lot weaker. But it made sense back in the day when there actually was time between things you could do. And Final Fantasy XIV, as some of you may know, originally didn't have auto attacks. You were supposed to like mash a button as a basic attack to build up to have a resource to use actions. But players wanted auto attacks so badly.
We'll handle things from here. Take care of the Fisher.
I think I also heard that jumping initially wasn't in it. Butterfly Spinner says, didn't you put Black Mage into F tier for Mentor Roulette? Basically, in my Mentor Roulette tier list, a key thing to keep in mind is that the way I graded it meant that it wasn't necessarily bad to be low graded. The ranking was basically each job's capacity to carry. And Black Mage isn't very good at doing things on its own. So it's not very good at carrying in that sense. Hence it landed in F tier. But the way that is not necessarily bad is that a mentor who plays quote-unquote an F-tier mentor roulette job just means that they have to carry harder with their words. And if you've seen me play something like Ramu Extreme on Black Mage, you'll notice that I'm a lot more willing to just stop attacking and tell people what to do. Bruh. I didn't have enough. I didn't realize it was out of range, and then the scanner hit me. Yes, I do, Shakur. Did you notice that I was hovering over the red mage to Ethereal Manipulum? And then I just didn't because I didn't make it because I was out of range? I know pretty accurately how it works, yeah. But it is a really funny detail, yes. Let's see if I can get it right this time. If he says, is Tricast a Black Mage now just for mobility? Because if you're Umbral Ice, had it. Because if you're under Umbral Ice 353, it's casted in under 2.5 seconds. That was also how it works in the past, so you don't lose GCD uptime. Same goes for your in Astral 5-3. You can cast Blizzard 3 and under. That was also how it worked in the past. You're looking at the wrong actions there, Evie. So you only need to Swift cast 5-3 as your first cast and not lose seconds on your GCD. So you don't do that in a real fight. You just precast during the pre-pull. So no, that's also not relevant. But you could do that. But is that correct? Triple cast and Swift cast gives rise to a lot of tricks, Evie. A lot of tricks. I have 2 videos on it, and it even features in my Black Mage guide. If you pay close attention, I do use them a little bit here. Every time I finish an Astral Fire stage, you'll notice that either I use Mana Font or I use Transpose, Swift Cast, or Triple Cast, and then I Blizzard 3, because casting Blizzard 3 in Astral Fire makes Blizzard 3 do less damage. So switching to Umbral Ice first means that you get a damage boost. And it's a lot of transpose tricks, yeah. At lower levels, I have there's also the trick that I call the double dip, where you finish an Astral Fire step, and then you triple cast, so that you can both insta-cast a Blizzard 3, a Blizzard 4, and a Fire 3, which is a game. So you go like Blizzard 3, Blizzard 4, transpose again, Fire 3. There's a lot. Like, Black Mage is really weird. Again, like, if like some of you have seen the polls, and like a lot of people are like completely dumbfounded that Black Mage scores so high. It's nearly impossible for a new player to ask how to do things as a Black Mage without getting smacked right in the face, just boom, with all of this, because of how front and center it is. It's almost impossible to get information on these things without getting this like more advanced stuff, because of how ingrained it is in the basics of the job. It's really funny. But yeah, at max level, Black Mage mainly uses triple cast and swift cast as mobility tools, because they have like the only thing they can use to like gain on single target is Blizzard 3, pretty much. How would you feel if Evolve Mode removed Transpose? I wouldn't be surprised. I have sort of thrown my hat in the ring on how they could possibly do that. Hey Harry and Vibes, hope you're doing well. for the gifted sub. Or gifted membership, Harry. You could also use triple cast or swift cast fire 2 for AoE. You don't want to do that. You don't really want to do that. Thank you for the sub, Bacon Pash. Yeah, it's true, Cat. You could, and you'll also notice that sometimes at the start of a dungeon, I will do that. Like my opener in dungeons is Swift Cast, Blizzard 3 or 2, depending on how stacked the mobs are. Followed by Blizzard 4, followed by triple cast into Freeze or Blizzard 4, again, based on how closely stacked the mobs are. And then I will also use Thunder somewhere in there. Then I transpose, and then I will use Paradox somewhere. And then I will use... Actually, I will usually use Fire 3 or High Fire 2. And then Paradox, so that I always start the dungeon by building a fire starter for later. Also tricks related. So, thank you so much, Bacon Pash. I'm glad to hear that. No worries, Evie. It was just that, like, the specific things you were talking about are things that are basically the specific stuff that didn't change. I'm just like, nope, that's, barking up the wrong tree. But something funny is that many of the quality of life things and smaller stuff over the course of Dawntrail that Black Mages got has led to some really cursed leveling tricks. Like, in one of my videos on Black Mage tricks, I mentioned that at level 40, like right when you get Fire 3 and before you have Fire Starter access, spamming Fire 3 is like less than 1% damage gain. It's a damage gain, but it's less than 1%. Is there a priority for which melee DPS should use Limit Break? Technically, yes. And the priority can be based on a lot of things. And it usually only matters at all in, like, in Savage Raid contexts and such. But technically there's a priority. The highest priority is whoever has the weakness debuff from dying. Below that is like some jobs are just slightly better at it. Not because the Limit Break does more damage or something like that. Just that they have a way to make it less costly, or for some other reason it's better for them to do it. Like, for example, Reapers kind of hate doing it because of that whole thing that sometimes comes up about them being gauge negative. That's a whole conversation of its own, and if you're a casual player, don't worry about it. And a ninja might feel very compelled to do it as long as you don't ask them to do it during the burst. A monk might be really good at doing it because of Six-Sided Star, again, as long as you don't ask them to do it during the burst. Nay, Wolfkin, hope you're doing well. But yeah, it kind of comes down to who has the ability to, like, click a button with a really long GCD so that it can, like melt into the cast of Limit Break, because you can weave Limit Break. Retro Gaming says, why do you switch with Transpose and not Fire and Blizzard? Because if you cast Fire and Blizzard in their appropriate elements, they do more damage. Bruh, really? Right in my ley lines? Okay. But yeah, I go over those things in both my Black Mage Guide Retro Gaming and also in my 2 videos explaining the finer details of the job. And all of the jank of the job. You watched the guide 3 times. Oh, fair enough. You didn't get the music, but you did get the pants. Oh boy. Yay, pants! Next says, actually come to think about it, how are you getting Firestarter without Fire 1? My tooltip doesn't say Fire 4 gives Firestarter. Paradox, as Jay said. At level 90, you get this ability called Paradox. When you're in Ice mode, and you have Umbral Ice 3, and 3 Umbral Hearts, you know, Blizzard 4, and switch to Fire in any way, as long as you switch from that specific fully Ice state over to Fire, you get a Paradox marker, which turns Fire... YouTube, what are you doing today? If you're in Astral Fire 3, and you switch to Ice, as long as you stay in Fire and move to Ice, you get like a Paradox marker again. You can carry the Paradox marker between the two if you want to, but the way it works is that in Ice, Paradox is free and does 540 potency, basically a Fire 4, as is. In Fire, it costs the same as a Fire 4 without an Umbral Heart. And it doesn't spend Umbral Hearts because it doesn't do fire damage, so it doesn't count. And it doesn't get damage boost from Astral Fire because it doesn't do fire damage. It does unexpected damage. But when it is used in Astral Fire, it gives you Firestarter with a 100% chance instead of a 40% chance. Welcome back, but sorry, I don't know why it's acting like that today. Usually it's fine. Access, I see, so I will still need to fire 1 at my current level because I don't have Paradox yet. No, you just don't use Firestarter. Have you, like, again, I recommend you watch my guide if you haven't already. The moment you get Fire 4, the moment you get Blizzard 4, Blizzard 1 just disappears from your rotation. The moment you get Fire 4, Fire 1 disappears from your rotation. There's like super hyper niche situations where you might use them anyway, but you're probably not gonna find yourself in those situations without knowing it yourself. Anyway, I will queue when it says 48. Wasn't there one time a meme rotation you called with Paradox only? No. It was called the Paradox rotation because Paradox was completely central to its functionality. But it just the point of it was that you didn't cast anything. You just used instants all the time. And Paradox was like a core part of that, and it still is. Like, the reason why Scathe had, like, Scathe is garbage, right? But at level 90, when you get Paradox, Scathe is completely pointless because you don't need anything from it at all. Like, I've set myself up like this, right? The way that you can do this is, so you cast Fire Paradox, Fire 3, Transpose, Ice Paradox, Umbral Soul, so 0 damage, Umbral Soul, Transpose, Fire Paradox, Fire 3, transpose, paradox, and then you just... And this is not the paradox rotation. This is just an example of what you could do if you were scared of casting something. And this does significantly more damage than using Scathe. This is why Scathe has no purpose at high level, because even when you're in the perfect scenario where it would actually be useful, it's still bad. And the reason why you Umbral Soul twice is because you need to have 3 Umbral Ice for you to get a Paradox marker when you enter fire. But that's just one thing you can do. There's like so much jank you can do with Black Mage. So much. And yeah, you still have triple cast and swift cast, and you're generating polyglots, and you could maintain thunder. Like, I'm just using one small thing. A super niche situation where you use Blizzard 1? There was. I don't think there is anymore. But there are super niche situations where you use Fire 1. At level 70, for example... If you're fighting, I don't know, Garuda, specifically in the Ultima Weapon Ultimate encounter, that fight requires so little damage from the DPS that there could be an argument to be made that you would want to stall sometimes and deliberately do less damage. And if you're gonna do that, you might as well make yourself an Astral Fire, not Astral Fire, a Fire Starter buff, so that you can start better when Ifrit comes in, right? How many flares back to back is optimal for an AoE rotations? You can only do 2, but that's also the optimal. Yeah, basically it's for sandbagging. There's like, actually, let me correct myself. There is one niche situation where Blizzard 1 is useful. I've been told that in the Epic of Alexander Ultimate, there is like a little intermission where you want to hurt an ad but not kill it. And the way to do that more carefully is to use Blizzard 1. Now, you might say, wouldn't Scathe be better for that? No, because half the time, like, a portion of the time, Scathe will randomly do more damage. So this is 4 flares technically, right? How would you do 4 flares without Mana Font? And if you say, with Mana Font, that's 2 Astral Fire stages. That's 2 of them. You get 2 flares and then 2 flares. Wasn't AoE as Black Mage from 50 to 100? Flare, mana charge repeat? At level 50, you do something like Flare, Transpose, Freeze, Fire 2, Flare. Transpose, Freeze, Fire 2, Flare, blah, 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 blah. And you sprinkle in Thunder as you go, because you don't have 2 flares per fire state. At level 58, where Freeze gives Umbral Hearts, you skip over Fire 2 as well. You just go Freeze, Thing, Flare, Flare. But sometimes you'll do Fire 2 anyway, because like Freeze is actually not optimal. And Freeze Thunder when you didn't need to reapply Thunder is also not optimal. Isn't it better to just attack and let the rest of your party sandbag harder, since other jobs have better sandbagging to generate resource capabilities than Black Mage? That depends on your team, Butterfly. And I didn't say whether you should do it or not. I said that it is a way you could, it's a thing you could do. Like, you'd rather have Reaper cast Soul, so Reaper does not have Soul, so at level 70. Dragoon build up their Wormwind, they don't have Wormwind at level 70. You see the problem? Well. Did you know that Solso is a gain on 2 over half? I'm pretty sure it's a gain on 1 over half. Don't know if it's a gain on 2. But to be fair, Solso is basically 3 GZDs. That's what it says. Genuine question though. I've been struggling to fit in the blanks in AoE rotational back mage. Fit them in? I mean, if you're having too many blanks, you just sometimes do an extra one. Oh, Crush us with me. That's not a good start. You shouldn't rest them. That's a damage loss. I have a feeling that we're gonna wipe here. Because I don't think the DPS are gonna jump on Rathalos in time. And I need the healer to not do it. And there we go. That was a miracle. Are you all still in phase 1? DPS not doing damage. They spent so much time being stunned. Uh-oh. How did I not get hit there? Oh boy. Oh boy. Imagine looking up a guide for an extreme. Wouldn't that be crazy, guys? Surely a Sprout would have learned to not do that by level 70, right, guys? Surely they would. Right? Ah. Both of the Sprouts are German, Retro Gaming. That's true, Crusher. I absolutely know that. But I was trying to get them to understand that they're not getting a rest if they don't click the button. And then just after saying, you're not getting a healer rest here, you have to click the button, you rest them. Like, exactly. Like the perfect comedic timing. I mean, we have nothing against Germans. The only reason why I need to know where they're from is because if like I asked first, do you speak English? Because I saw they both have German as their set language. So if I explain it all in English and they don't understand English, then like we're all just wasting time at that point, right? And one of them said yes. So I'm gonna assume that they understood what I said. Nice. Oh boy. I do recommend, like, while you're not baiting stuff like that, I do recommend being a little bit closer, because when he looks at you, he will dash at you like a bat out of hell if you're all the way over there. Like, he will just dash at you faster to make up the difference. There's basically no benefit to being super far away from Rathalos. There is benefit to being a little bit away from him, because he has attacks that are like, you know, roughly melee range. Like that. By the way, Crusher, you do need to dispel them when they get hit, or they will just die from the dot. Oh no. Oh no. And leaving a poison dot on yourself will mean that your health will naturally drop to a point where you will die from one hit. So don't ignore it just because it's a poison dot. You need to heal now. You need to heal now. You will die. Every time someone gets hit by basically anything in Phase 2, you have to give them an Inshuna. Just for luck. Because if they like, walk away with a dot on them or something, then they will die from the next hit. But very nice. Very well done. And it isn't easy. It's just what needs to happen. very well done, Crusher. I think it would have been a lot harder without you. Ego says, I will say it makes me wish there was some more fights that make you really pay attention to the direction they face without a long AF orange tail. Oh yeah. Fair enough. Right, I will be right back and then we keep going. Time. Manatee restored. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, Rathalos is really weird. There's a lot of positioning strategy. The reason why I say come closer is because, as you see, if you're really far away, he like goes crazy fast, which makes it really difficult to see. Also because you're far away, it's a little hard to gauge how far you have to move as he approaches. And it might be difficult to tell that he's looking at you. But if you're like mid-range, he has attacks where he has to like fly like a few steps forward towards you if he chose you as the target. And if he's choosing someone else, you can just stay put because he's like swinging in front of your feet. But also standing not in the same, at the exact same angle relative to Rathalos helps a ton because he'll only look at one person at a time, obviously. So if you have 4 players standing at different angles, then you can see who he's targeting. And if he's not targeting you, that doesn't mean that you're like completely safe, but it does mean that you have an easier time dodging. Whereas if you have 2 players standing on top of each other, then him targeting either one of you doesn't matter. He's gonna be equally annoying. And if you don't stand right in front of Rathalos, you can also tell when he's queuing up his next attack, because he will just stand there for like a couple seconds just crossing his eyes, you know, classic Final Fantasy XIV boss stuff, and then go, oh, right, boss mechanic. Right, charge at Steve over there. But he has to face you first, so if you're not standing right in front of him, you know when he's, like, targeting, like when he's doing something, when he's screwing something up. By the way, Mistle, hope you get well soon. Right. Roger says, I actually find it easier to dodge when I stand closer too. Well, there you go. Right, I will queue when it says 10. Do you think we'll get a high-level Pictomancer duty? Or even a Pictomancer duty with tonight's luck? That's unfortunate, Violet. The oof with the housing bit. By the way, if you are enjoying the stream, it does help a lot with the like over on the YouTube side of things. Low-level picture is so boring, it's like low-level Black Mage all over again. I will say they are boring in different ways. I can make something funny at level 35 with Black Mage. I can make something funny. With Pictomancer, I guess I can do something, but at least give me like level 50. I also prefer at least level 50 on Black Mage, but Pictomancer's extra boring. Those 4 levels of Black Mage where the optimal AoE rotation is just casting freeze. Even worse, it's 9 levels. Actually, it's 10 levels because it's level 40 to 49. Real cool, right? I mean, you are casting like Thunder and maybe 1 Fire 2 every now and then, but boy. Oh boy. Fire 2 bad, guys. Well, I guess we're going White Mage. No DPS rolls for us tonight, boys and girls, and everything in between. Where are we going today? Oh. Wow. Titan! Hey, cheese lover! Hope you're doing well. Fire 2 bad, fork found in kitchen. The thing is, the reason why Blizzard 2 is bad is because you don't need the MP for anything on AoE. You just get it from freeze. The reason why Fire 2 is worth anything at all, its only claim to fame is, I mean, technically, it's either your only AoE button that is worth anything when you're like really low, level. But once you get something like freeze, which is actually like a decent AoE button, like an okay one, then Fire 2's only claim to fame is I make your flare better. And then you ask yourself when you're below level 50, what flare? What flare you mean? Yes, it is provide. The reason is that Fire 2, because of cast attacks, takes 3.1 seconds to cast, while Freeze takes a totally normal GCD. So 2.5 seconds. And while Fire 2 gets like 80% extra potency from Astral Fire, it needs 50% of those just to match Freeze in potency, because Freeze is that strong. And then there's only like 30 remaining. So the only reason you use Fire 2 in that level range is because you kind of need to enter Astral Fire momentarily to get a new Thunderhead to maintain your dot. But AoE fights usually don't last that long. That is, if I recall correctly, assuming you're adamant about doing something in Fire on AoE, doing Fire 1 or 3 is better, up to quite the high target count compared to AoE. I believe from level 40 to 49, if you're at a target count where you would be doing an AoE rotation proper, you'd probably cast Fire 2. But I believe Fire 2 is weaker than Fire 3 on 3 targets. Yeah, if you've ever heard me mention the Thunder Freeze provide, that's the AoE rotation from level 40 to 49. I named it that. You start preferably in Fire, Astral Fire, and then you open by casting Thunder 2, Transpose, and then you cast Freeze until you need to reapply Thunder, and then you cast Freeze until like a moment before you need to cast Thunder again, like about 5 seconds before, like when there's 5 seconds left. Then you you finish your Freeze, cast Transpose, cast Fire 2, and yes, you're doing it in Astral Fire because then it does more damage. And you would be casting Freeze from Umbral Ice 1, so you wouldn't get the cast time reduction that you'd normally get from Umbral Ice 3, because you're not casting Blizzard 2, you're just casting Freeze. So there's no benefit to staying in Ice when you're casting that Fire. You switch to Fire, cast Fire 2, and then you reapply your dot, which spends the 5 seconds necessary so that you can transpose again, and also places the transpose in the instant cast window of Thunder. And then you spam Freeze again. But most of the time, you will not need to reapply your Thunder like 3 times in an AoE pull in Aerial Reborn. However, if you were good, you casted Thunder on the move during wall-to-wall pulls using Transpose. I mean, Evie, you would have also done that. Like in those low levels, what else can you do while moving? I say Sheeran Phil, no be doing well. Because I just don't get Black Mage. Let's just say that there is a reason why I heard a lot of like more hardcore players be completely dumbfounded that Black Mage got so many votes for being the hardest mage. Meanwhile, I sat here thinking, boy, you guys have not watched a single Mentor Roulette stream, have you? Because Black Mage is complicated. Like, every single optimization is like, oh, what's the intuitive thing? Okay, how about we don't do that? Now let's see if we can get that Pictomancer cube up. I'll queue when it says 13. 14. Zelly says the learning curve of a job is part of its difficulty, in my opinion. It doesn't stop counting just because you've gotten past it. No, see, the reason is, Zelly, that a lot of people don't really, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but don't really keep the memory of Well, I did find it hard at first. And focus a lot more on, well, it's easy for me now. That's what it says, TBH, the poll is your opinion, so if that's your opinion, then sure. Exactly, and part of the reason why the poll is just your opinion is because if I had asked people to, like, come up with, like, some specific justification beyond that, some would still vote just, well, I don't like this job, so I think I'll vote that. So, like, the safest way is to just say, just pick based on, like, choose with your heart, whatever. Which one do you feel is harder? Good enough for me. I will tell you why you feel that way. Iritsu. And, Lunarian. Cat says, to be fair, I also don't care about doing optimal AoE damage in Sunken Temple of Khan. Is that the only dungeon at level 40? It's not. I guess that's the thing, actually. When it comes to these, like, something like Thunder Freeze, the only dungeons it matters in is Cutter's Cry down to Aurum Vale. And the super cursed Fire 3 spam, single target optimal rotation, is only relevant in, Sunken Temple of Khan, and Cutter's Cry, and the Naval. And that's it. Because those are the only level, like, only duties that are in that particular low level range. Oh, are we getting another extreme? And yeah, I agree, Crab Galaxy. The thing is, Black Mage has become a lot easier. Oh! Agent Monica's here. And Oromia recognizes me. Your Titan Subtle went to the gym real quick. I think I lost the track of what I was talking about. That tank is dead. Did they not see the red line? If you smudge off the edge and still clear the fight, I'll gift us up. You can probably tell that I'll only do that if I know that we're winning. Which we're not. I asked the tanks to tank Titan closer to the edge, The Alpha Legend said, stay near. Like, bro. Okay, hope you're doing well. Bruh. You all did read a Titan Extreme guide, right? Probably not. As I say, the reason why I drill it so much with you guys is because we need to increase the average chance that someone actually has checked the guide. Uh-oh, I think I might have killed the healer. Hope I haven't. I have. Dang it. And I was just trying to be helpful. Maldus says, I just had a Shiva stream and the Sprouts started by asking for advice, and the best part was that they actually listened and acted based on what was said. Nice! It just says, I have legend title, listen to me instead, quote from Deadman. I mean, they didn't try to emphasize their advice when I said, no, actually, we die if you tank him like that in the last phase. They just said XD. And then, as you could see, actually acted on it. And we just incidentally used your name, Deadman. I mean, it is an Alpha Legend, so they have the clear on Omega. And that is true, Shunfil. It's very difficult to know that what you're signing up for your first extreme. Again, the reason why, because I know that I have you here, I can advise you so that you don't make that mistake of going in unprepared. But if you've been watching my mentor roulette, you'd also have a pretty solid idea of what's happening. Precisely because of, whoa, of how much I run into this stuff. Yeah, I was specifically not helping LM there because that's how I killed the healer last try. I was gonna hold my burst to save them afterwards. Yeah, of course, Evie, of course. Me saying it's the legend that that says the thing is also just a meme, because I talk plenty about people having weirdly high expectations of mentors because they have a crown. Like, that's not how any of this works. What? Now we have the problem that I don't think... I wonder if any of the tanks know what to do about the ads. It looks like the answer is their plan was just ignore them, right? Agent Monica will figure it out, right? Surely. Well, we have lost our wrestlers. Exactly, Cheese Lover. The crown just says you played a lot and you want to help. And an ultimate title ultimately just means that you completed that specific duty. It means you have some experience with that specific duty. Not that you have some sort of magical super ability. You're probably more likely to have the capacity to clear other duties. But it's no guarantee, not in the slightest. Oh boy. I mean, you could actually have dodged that. I don't know why they're just standing there. Did they take their hands off the keyboard and put down the controller? Hey, Felkoros. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Hurdle. Yeah, perfect time to take a sip of my co. Oh no! I think LM has massive latency issues or something with a reflex. I have a feeling that we will lose multiple players now. Players are having the most trouble? The healers. One of them seems to react with like a 2 to 3 second delay. They also seem to just be clicking buttons. Look at LM there. No chance with that reaction speed. Did you tell the tank not to pull and maybe let you explain finally? There's nothing to explain. The thing that we're failing is basic mechanics. There's nothing to explain. I said everything I needed to say. The problem is that the healers are getting hit by basic stuff and dying. Or not healing well enough, so things die. Also that people die. Like that's the awkward thing with Titan Extreme is that nearly the whole fight is basic stuff when it really comes to it that I can't, there's nothing I can say when we get to the ad phase. If the tanks are not handling the ads, then we have a thing we can talk about. But if the tanks are handling the ads, then most of it is just, dude, you have to dodge better. You can't put down the controller because you're in a jail. You might get rescued with less than a second to move. So you have to be 1000% ready the whole time, just in case something happens. Because something will happen. Now we'll see whether the tanks will do something with the ads now. Nope. I didn't mean to do that. And I don't know how I survived that. Uh-oh. The ads, when they die, they put down this goop. So one of the tanks is supposed to pick up the ads and move them away. Can you see how hard it is for the tanks to move when they have goop right where they're supposed to tank? Oh boy. That was silly. Yeah, the thing is, like, strategically, it's probably the easiest extreme. Now, let's grab the sage that we got, that we rolled earlier for one last one. Alcuna says 30. get Praetorium again? Well, I will say it is with 3 classes. So, to be fair, this is gonna take a while. Yeah, and the Warriors, sorry, the Marauder is legitimately level 16. I'm gonna go and check the note. It says blue. Look how much the healer healing is. I mean, look how much health I have relative to the tank. Yeah, 16 Marauder is probably not a good idea for big pulls. It's perfectly possible that this is his first dungeon. The Archer very well might not be a completely new player, but the Marauder and the Thaumaturge might be... First of all, they might know each other. That's a male and female Hrothgar Sprout duo. They might... It might be a couple squad here. Maybe the Archer is friends with them. And while I could probably just turbo through it, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that a Sage could do 2 pulls at a time, no problem. I mean, I right now have the opportunity to give them a chill first dungeon with no one pushing. And no one complaining. Yeah, a lot of the time, if you ask, a lot of people are pretty chill about it, and it's okay. Will they find the rooms nobody does, though? I mean, if they go and explore and find them, I won't say a thing. What I will do is, as we approach the corals, I'll mark it and mark the correct one. I can't remember if it was last week or the week prior, we had a Stone Vigil run where the tank said that they were new to tanking. And, well, it required like a second request. The 2 DPS slowed down when I asked. A chill run to decompress that. Yeah, exactly. This is, oh boy. Look, it's the jerk anglerfish. Will he do his legendary raid buff? He did it! The way you do that, Jace, I guess the reason is that it's, you know, it's choosing at random. But if you are a pre-made, remember the limited leveling roulette button. Oh, I can't target it yet, I guess. Why can I not target it? There we go. Yeah, Crab Galaxy, that happens. There are some players that believe that the only way to learn is to go straight into the deep end. And for some reason, there is often an overlap with that kind of player and them also believing that only their way works. Hey, Chocolate and Alice. Hope you're doing well. I mean, Evie, my perspective on that is this is their first dungeon. Maybe they'll start to get adventurous in their second dungeon. I feel like this specific, like the first one, you don't have to like remember, this is a game. At some point, the tutorial ends. And I'm choosing to not be I'm choosing to teach by being nice cop today. Chris Dardell says, I leveled a fresh character on Conjure recently and almost all the tanks asked me if I wanted big pulls or not. It was very cute. That is nice. The way I do it when I'm tanking is that I will usually pull big if I believe in it. Sometimes I'll pull smaller based on me just making a vibe. Like, I just make a vibe call on whether I think the healer's got it or not. Really subtle stuff. And if we wipe, I'll just say, sorry, I'll pull less. And that's it. And my logic on that is that if I ask the healer if they want big pulls or not, they might. Some healers might feel like they have to say yes to the big pulls, because if they say no, then they're the reason the dungeon is going slower. But if they say yes, and then we wipe, then whose fault is it? They said they could handle it, right? So for that reason, I don't ask. I just do it, and then I take the blame. Oh. Oops. I think... But I also work very much by an approach that is when I'm tanking with strangers, unless they specifically ask for it in some form or another. If I wipe to pulling in a specific way, I don't do the same pull twice. So if we wipe to it, I'll do it differently. I'll just do it differently. Try something else. Pull less. It's usually what I'll do. This is gonna be great for the video, guys. Y'all ever seen the entirety of Sastasha? I think the last time I explored the entirety of Sastasha was when I ran this dungeon with my brother. Because he was the sprout. Irats Chris, hope you're doing well. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. There's also this. The hole. This is not smart. We should lock the hole. Okay, where do we put the key, guys? Now, this might sound crazy, but hear me out. A chest with loot in it! Yeah, there are definitely less patient players. That's a given. But I am glad that most are pretty patient with the sprouts like this, especially if you just ask. Volta says, just got a free extreme with the same group I had in Shiva. Yeah, that can happen. We have had mentor roulette streams where I've ran into the same person or couple of people repeatedly because they just queue for all of it. Like, they're having an extreme evening. You can't properly. That's also nice. It is funny, the reason why people generally don't anymore is because there was this belief that you needed something to put on the scales to open the door. Then people suddenly realized, I mean, you don't. You will just get attacked. And then people, like, realize that, I mean, the loot isn't that good or important. Hey, Maledictio! That's also true, Maledict. Like, the argument for can't we just hurry to the end with this one is like, if these three people want to explore the whole dungeon, because of Explorer mode existing, they could easily do that in Explorer mode after the fact. Technically, right? And that would save me time. Red Mountain says, is the reason just to get the mapping achievement? Yeah, or, you know, to explore a video game. To explore a fantasy world. I know. Crazy stuff. But me just, like, funny thing now, like, while we're on the topic of disrespecting someone else's time and all that. There is something to be said that me going, well, I don't want to be here for an extended period and just crashing into every pack and speedrunning and completely ruining everyone else's experience. Isn't that also disrespecting their time? And, I mean, I guess I didn't sign up for a 15-minute Sastasha, but this could have been a 45-minute Ramu Extreme. This is fine. Like, at minimum, when I click the Mentor Roulette button, I sign up for possibly an hour, or more if it's an Alliance raid, of hardship. Although I would be very concerned if an Alliance raid actually failed due to time in 2026. Hey, Arya Vandel. Hope you're doing well. And S Fox. Z Fox, sorry. Rep Galaxy says, I don't think exploring the dungeon is disrespecting someone's time. I mean, the logic in the disrespecting someone's time is, I have places to be. Can't we clear the dungeon quicker? It doesn't help anyone, quote unquote, to explore the dungeon. The mobs drop like a pitiful amount of money and the gear is replaced in no time flat. And all that, right? My time is being wasted. We could have been out of here 5 minutes ago if the tank pulled bigger and we killed the mobs faster, right? But see, why are we wasting time doing the boss mechanic? It doesn't matter. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna do it. Check this out. Boom. I'm gonna help him. He tried to do it, but he's a tank, so he can't. And I'll do it. Before someone quote mines Kai? What do you mean? Taking something you said out of context to make it seem like you're saying something you don't actually believe. I don't know what to tell you. People would... The way some people do things is that you don't even have to say something in a sentence. Sometimes they'll just hear the second half of a sentence and then disagree with you. Like... Let me put it like this, Crab Galaxy. If you want to see a honeypot of people not paying attention, you check the comments of my Why Do Some Healers Not Attack video. Or short. I say at the top of it that the reason, like, that healers don't really have a, like, that healers, to some extent, don't really have a good reason to attack, aside from the concept known as damage is mitigation. Which means if the boss dies, it doesn't do damage. And I say, aside from damage is mitigation, which is true. And, you know, there's text on the screen explaining that I say that. It's a translate, like, there's, like, subtitles. Yet some people think that I said that healers shouldn't attack. Because they don't understand what damage is mitigation means. Or they weren't paying attention until the second half of the short. And then they get mad at me for suggesting that healers shouldn't attack. And others get mad at me for suggesting healers should attack. It's amazing how that works. I'll say Space Queen. Cases, I mean, technically they're getting more experience because it scales how many enemies are taken out. Incorrect. That was something players suspected would happen. The way that dungeons work now is that they just put a specific amount of XP on the bosses. Ariandel says, death is the best CC. Aradel says, Chaiji is the best CC. Thank you. But yeah, exactly. The most effective way to stop damage is just kill the boss. And that's correct, Evie. People will always find a reason to disagree, so... I'm pretty comfortable saying something and then just saying, you know, clarifying that that's not what I think, and I'm giving an example. That's just how it works now. It's pretty easy to test, Jace, if you have a job you can level. Ah, same. But yeah. The funny thing, to get back to what I was just saying about the disrespecting time, is that I usually don't use that angle. And I also usually approach it from, do it for your own sake. Like, that's why I say, like, with extremes, I say, since I have you here, I tell you, watch a guide or read a guide. Make sure you're up to stuff with your job. Because these duties are hard. And it would be in your best interest to be prepared. Because the moment that you're in the arena with the boss, you don't have time anymore to check these things. So do your homework for your own sake. It'll be easier. And you might get the clear, whereas if you don't go in prepared, you might land in a party with no one that's prepared. And then it's just over. If I instead said, read or watch a guide because you're a jerk to everyone else, some people might not care about everyone else. And if we talk about disrespecting time, as I said, in that Sastasha run, one perspective is by taking this Sastasha run so slowly for no reason. The tank could easily have pulled 2 packs at a time, or even 3. I didn't cast Diagnosis once. I moved my Cardia once, I think. And I basically did the whole dungeon like this. With one hand. We could easily have done it faster. But they were probably having a good time. Exploring it and figuring things out. And happy that things were chill and it just worked. And they just had to focus on, oh, I have to pick up these enemies. And where do we go in this dungeon and things like that. Instead of being like, mitigation, man! Do the thing correctly. So me spending 5 minutes extra to do the dungeon, or even more. I think you can do Sustache in like 8 minutes, maybe less if you like turbo. Means by that token that from my perspective, I spent more time than I needed to. But if I had just dashed forward and done everything for them, just soloed it, essentially, they would not have had a very good time, right? I'll get to that in a moment, Evie. So if I decided that I want to get it done in 10 minutes and just rush forward, then everyone else would have had 30 minutes combined, like cumulatively between them, of time they didn't enjoy. And I did that to save 5 minutes for me. Net loss, it's probably better to let them have their way. Namia, hope you're doing well. Avi says, I think in the end it's about the majority. If the majority wants to do it blind, you are the jerk if you pre-watch. And if everyone expected to know the fight, you're the jerk if you don't. And same goes with polls, you would be the jerk if 3/4 want to go slow, but they'd be a jerk. They'd be the jerk if 3/4 want to go fast. When it comes to queuing for hard content, Evie, if you go in expecting to have a say in whether people are blind or not, then you are wrong. Like, straight up, if you open the duty finder and queue for anything, you have chosen to deal with the random stuff you're getting. And when it comes to extremes, they are simply too hard to assume that people will go in blind. And if you wanted to do it blind, you should have had a full group beforehand. But yes, if once we go to blind is something you do pre-made, as you said, you do it blind only and pre-made with friends, then if someone comes in and spoils it, they're the idiot. But yeah, basically, I just want to be sure that we're on the same page, that you can't do a duty truly blind if anyone in the party is not blind. Even if the person who's not blind says, I'll just not say anything, it's like, yeah, but, I mean, if you're the tank on Ramu Extreme, you're gonna pick up the orbs correctly. Unless you're, like, deliberately sandbagging and being like, well, no one told me what to do. Which, you could plan that with friends. Just say, I'm not gonna say anything. You have to tell me what to do. And if you're a DPS or a healer, you might be, like, managing the orbs. But no one told you to do that. Hey, Brian, hope you're doing well. This community struggles to understand when times are chill and when times are go, go, go. I mean, welcome to the internet. You go into your first game of any PvP game, and someone will still tell you to uninstall because you're not good. Hey, Rest Tempest. Can I still join a blind prog if I watch a guide and get blind? I think, generally speaking, that my advice is if you're joining a blind prog group, you should be upfront and say, I have looked over a guide. I won't say anything. Is that okay? And if they say no, that's the end of that, right? Good night, Retro Gaming. But yeah, there is something to be said that there are definitely people in 14 that don't know where to put the brakes. Is there anything you hope to see during next FanFest? I mean, I've looked over the schedule. I imagine that the most interesting thing in the kind of stuff that I'm the most interested in will be revealed in the keynote. But because when they showed off Evolved mode jobs, they did it in the dev panel, and this time the dev panel is focused on sound. I would be very surprised if they showed off jobs. Brendo says, I played WoW for 10 odd years and never ventured off of DPS since it was so hard to learn due to how rude everyone was. But Final Fantasy I swapped to tank early and was able to learn. That's nice. I got into WoW when I was like 11. And when I was like around 13 or 14, I think. I mean, I was tanking dungeons on the regs, and I healed for a bit in a raid team and things like that. Consider that for a second. You could, if someone in your raid team does not have a mic, or claim they don't have a mic, it's possible it's a kid. But point is, I learned how to heal and tank when I was young enough to not even have the concept of idea that maybe it would be a problem if I was bad at it. I just thought, I mean, I feel like healing right now. It'd be cool to be a paladin with a sword and a shield. So I want to do that. There's a reason why I can put on my channel that I played WoW for about 15 years, even though I quit at around, like, BFA. Tanking in 14 also requires less, like, dungeon knowledge, because, well, because of the thing that most duties are very similarly structured. So you don't have to, like, keep track of the weird oddities of the duties. But yeah, WoW is weird. Maledictio says that this definitely brings up how Tanxiety is more like a different issue than actually I'm bad at game. Oh yes, I have a video giving advice on how I like, and that it's not based on as much on personal experience and rather based on what I believe helps and what I've heard people say help. But I have a video both discussing Tanxiety and heal anxiety. But all that said, I'm not even joking. If you're afraid of tanking or healing because you're anxious about it, I'm not kidding. The most effective way to get over it is you switch to your tank job, you do this, then you do this, and then like you just like peek between your fingers, and then you find the join button, and then you just click. And then you'll almost immediately hear the ding, dungeon appears. And then you just click enter. And then you just try. And the worst that can happen is that you wipe. The people being jerks about it, they're in the wrong. They can't hurt you. They can't touch you. If they start calling your names, you can technically report them. They're in the wrong. They're the problem player. And if you fail, okay, that's the first one. And at some point, you will have failed 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And at some point, you will have failed enough that you just go, meh, it's just another Tuesday. But the first time you fail, that's the first time. And then it's a big deal, right? But you have to let yourself fail so that you can become experienced at failing, so that you don't worry about it. And then it's suddenly not scary anymore. Amazing. And that is a huge part of it. And it's not about, oh, you have to be perfect. You don't even have to be great. You just have to try. And a lot of people don't try tanking because they don't even want to try. They're too scared of failing to even try. Say, Boobamet. Asymmetricon says, and then if you do high-end content, you realize that you're failing way more than you succeed, and that's just how the game works. Yes, exactly. I'll say, Emily, hope you're doing well. Emily. But yeah, it's not that bad. You just have to start practicing. Sneaky Snake says, it's a game, why would anyone be scared? I mean, you could have a hobby in the real life and be scared of embarrassing yourself. The only difference is these are digital people, and the more time you spend on a PC interacting with digital people, the more you might value that they're technically also real human beings. There's just the screen between you. Umit says, I'm friends with a lot of ex-League players and was telling them how my tank had some issues keeping enmity on all the mobs, which is why I rescued the DPS of the tank. They assumed I meant that the tank was bad and at fault, while I then corrected them and said, nah, it's a sprout tank in an early dungeon, it's fine. Yeah. It's not that, it doesn't have to be scary. Like, this also comes back to what I was saying earlier. We can talk all this talk about, well, shouldn't you teach them to pull 2-packs? And I say at some point the tutorial ends. Chocolate Alice says, why would anyone be scared? Ask Anxiety. They might know, because I sure as hell don't know why I should be scared of putting up Party Finder for various farms, yet I am scared. Anxiety just speaks loudly. Yeah, it can be scary. And it's a lot of things. Just to round off a little bit, looking at the time. So I've been playing a lot of Fellowship recently. A funny thing is that as you're progressing through the leagues, there is like blue shining light telling you as the tank what to pull as a suggestion. You could pull these. We give you a haste buff if you do. Which means that you could just do that. That's good enough. You can be creative if you want to, but you could just do what the game tells you to pull, and that's fine. But the moment you hit Eternal, which is like the end game grind, the game stops doing that. And as a tank, and I play tank a lot, I main tank for quite a while. What scares me about queuing into Eternal dungeons as a tank is that I know a way to do the dungeons. I can just look up a route and just try that, or just do the, like, what the blue light taught me. I could just do that. But there might be players that I get in my party that disagree with that, and then get annoyed that I don't do it the way they like. And the routes I can look up might not include the best one. And they might know the best one, but I don't. And the stupidest part of this is the reason why I've ended up playing tank so much is because the queue time for DPS is sometimes so long that you might just feel like closing the game. And the queue for healers is quite long as well. But for tanks, you just click enter and it goes dungeon. So you can play the game. So if someone has a problem with the way I do the dungeon and then complain at me, I mean, I could just try and fix it, or I could just go, well, I'm doing this. You join a different, like, do something else if you can't accept that. Or they leave, okay, I leave, and then there is no leaver penalty for them, because the game is in early access. They're figuring out what the best solution is for that. But I hop out, queue, and dungeon, and they're sitting in queue still for a whole dungeon's length. They're probably gonna be fine with whatever I come up with. But for some reason, I'm like, oh, but what if I do it wrong? What if I don't... What if I'm not perfect, guys? What if I'm not perfect? Then what would I do? Next one says, when I was new, I got flamed as Tasha when I was the first time healing for not being good enough. Ugh. Weird experience for a newcomer, but thankfully very uncommon. Yes, that is good at least. But yeah, that is something that like I could also be concerned about. And I say this well knowing that this is stupid, but I still think I'd rather just play DPS so that I don't have to deal with this routing stuff. Then I'll sit in queue for 15 minutes and see nothing. I'll land in the dungeon with a tank that is like 100 times worse than me, pull, wipe, leave, and then I'm sitting there like, what am I doing? Anyway, if you would like to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link right there in the chat. There you'll find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up in the coming days. You usually updated Sunday or Monday. You'll also find the announcement room with links to videos and streams when I put them out. If you grab the reminder role in the role assignments room, you'll get a notification whenever I do that. As well as the next one around 15 minutes before stream starts, you can catch it right when we go live. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can like the stream, you can follow, you can subscribe, you can remember, you can super chat, you can cheer, you can all that goodness. If you don't like any of that, there's also the Ko-Fi link. I will post it right there in the chat. It all helps support me in the channel directly, so I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you without having to worry about algorithms. And remember, if you have Prime over on Twitch, it means you get a free sub every month, I believe. But yeah, let's see if we can find someone to raid. Let's check in with KG. But that'll be it from me tonight. So, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world, and hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye!